Hi, everybody. This week, we're zooming into SEMICON West, having conversations with members of the 3D Insights community. And today, I'm speaking with Markus Wagner and Carsten Wesselkamp of Plan Optik. Plan Optik is based in Germany, and the company manufactures patterned wafers for a variety of semiconductor applications. In fact, Markus just recently published a blog on 3D Insights about carrier wafer technology. Hello, Markus and Carsten. Thanks for joining us today. How are
Hello.
things at
Hi.
Hi, how are things at Plan Optik?
Oh, it's great, good. So as you know, what we are doing is we are one of the leading manufacturers of processing glass or glass silicon compound or quartz wafers. So at the moment, it's still a good time for us, yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe let me talk about our company, about the company structures.
Yeah. Tell us a little about where are you located, who are your customers, what's your maybe core technology?
Yeah, of course. So Plan Optik is located in Germany. It's in the middle of Frankfurt or Cologne.
Okay.
And it's a small village. And we are, as I said before, we are processing glass in the end. So our main focus, our main experience is processing glass.
Glass, okay.
So we have different kinds of product lines. It's like simple substrate wafers or packaging wafers for 3D wafer level packaging, and also have carrier wafers for thin wafer handling and doing TSV wafers or TGVs for the glass. Yeah.
Okay.
Then yeah. Okay.
No, I was just going to ask how the company is doing right now as far as like handling the pandemic. And Carsten, we were just chatting before about how things are starting to return to normal in Germany.
Yeah. So what we have done is all the things we need to do, like keeping distance, like disinfection, like everything we need to do inside of the company. At the end, we are also separate the production shifts so that the people from different shifts do not meet each other and such things. But at the moment, we are good. We do not have any infected persons in the company, and everything is okay for us. Yeah. And okay.
That's great. That's good news. Okay, so let's talk about your technology. So you've recently discussed, you were just discussing the carrier wafers for semiconductor and MEMS manufacturing. Can you explain a little bit about what's driving the need for the carrier wafers?
Maybe answer that. The reason is there's an ongoing wafer thickness reduction in MEMS and semiconductor industry since many, many years. Okay. Mainly because of the market demand for smaller devices that afford an increased number of functionalities at reduced cost. But there are also some technical reasons for that. And so this means people need smaller package sizes to be realized. This means they need thin wafers, typically semiconductor wafers. And since they cannot handle thin wafers in their standard processes, they need a rigid carrier substrate for that. That's exactly what we are doing, these carrier substrates, which could be from glass and silicon and so on.
So your technology is mainly the carrier wafer to support the thin wafers. And,
yes,
could those thin wafers be either silicon or glass also? Because there's a lot of things happening with glass interposer wafers.
So the carrier wafers or carrier tools, or however you would like to call it, the supporting wafers are, I would say 90% is from glass, and about 10% could also be from silicon. Depends a little bit on the process which is used, if people prefer glass or even silicon.
Okay, I guess my question was, and just to clarify, was that so your product is the glass carrier wafers of different types of glass and different patterns, but are those wafers able to support either silicon device wafers or glass device wafers?
Now, typically, of course, we here internally are also using a thin wafer handling process for making thin wafers. These thin glass wafers are typically used for MEMS encapsulation. But the thin wafer handling technologies of for semiconductor wafers, such as silicon wafers or gallium arsenide wafers, they are typically using these support carriers, so which are also looking like wafers, but do have different specifications. And so these carriers are supporting the device wafer, which is put on top and later on released.
Okay. So let's talk.
Temporary.
Okay, so from the temporary carrier perspective, there's a lot of different approaches. So how does a customer decide whether to use, for instance, chemical release or laser release or thermal release? Is that driven by, I'm sorry, go ahead.
You already mentioned the most common release methods, and this leads to different carrier types. So the reason for using different release methods is mainly caused by the process or the product people would like to carry on top of such carriers. So the most common process is laser release. This means there is an adhesive put onto the carrier, and then you stick this device wafer on top. You process your device wafer, and then you need to get rid of the carrier, which still has a very high adhesion to the device wafer, which is on top. And the easiest way to do that is to use a glue, which is photosensitive, and to use a laser from the backside. And now it makes sense with a glass carrier, because the carrier needs to be transparent for the laser. You cannot use a silicon wafer or any other wafer. And so you destroy the adhesion of the glue through the glass carrier, and then you can peel off or slide off the device wafer, which is on top. The chemical release and the thermal release are working with thermal release methods. So you are heating up the whole stack, and then you increase the viscosity and you can slide off the wafer in thermal release. And in chemical release, you put both together, the device wafer plus the carrier wafer, into a solution, and this dissolves the glue. Advantage and disadvantage: laser release is very clean because you do not need heat, you do not need chemicals, nothing. So this means when the device wafer has been released, there is no residue typically. You do not need heat because some of the device wafers simply cannot take this heat for the release. But what is the advantage of a chemical release carrier system or a thermal release? That's pretty easy. A laser release system is extremely expensive. So this means you need the laser, you need to operate the laser, you need the right tools for bonding, debonding, and so on. And for chemical release, you simply use your wet bench for putting it into the solution, bonding equipment most people are having, or spinning equipment, and so on. So this means typically people who are using or are producing small or average numbers of wafers, when they start, they use chemical release or thermal release, because simply they do have almost all necessary equipment in-house. But if you go to a high volume production, like for power semiconductors or whatever, these people are all using laser release. Because it's clean, highly automized, and so on.
So does so it's not driven by the different architecture types, like the through silicon vias or chiplets or fan out? Does that determine?
It's more what your device wafer could take in respect to thermal load or chemical stuff around, and to the automation grade. It does not really depend on the architecture which you are using. So you will most likely find all methods in all architectures, such as fan out or whatever.
So once a customer knows what type of approach they're going to use, how do they determine which type of glass? Because that's another issue, right? Which type of glass to choose for their carriers?
Yeah, that's exactly our expertise. So, we are producing processing glass since almost 50 years, and in the past 5 to 6 years we have added this product of carrier wafers, and it's extremely increasing. What you need in all cases is very tight mechanical specifications, low thickness variation, high stability, high recycle rate, so people are recycling these carriers 25 or 30 times. And the reason for choosing different carrier types, which is different glass types, is driven by the device wafers thermal expansion. Because in the processes, typically there is some heat involved in the gluing process and the release process and so on. It's not much, but if there would be a thermal mismatch between the carrier and the device wafer, you would create a high wafer warpage or bow, and you would even crack your device wafer. So this means we are asking our customers, okay, what kind of device wafer do you like to carry? And then we are choosing the right glass type. That is mainly the work we're doing. And of course, some other specifications, if people are thinning, which is pretty typical, thinning down the device wafer to, let's say, 50 or 60 microns, they need very tight thickness variations inside the carrier, because if the carrier does have bad tolerances, you will see these tolerances in your device wafer later on.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That is really interesting. So now I skipped a question, but I think we can fit it in. Here we're having this virtual conversation. We're at a virtual event. Markus, you manage a lot of the marketing, what conferences you attend, where you participate, where you publish, correct? Is that your role?
Yeah, of course.
Okay,
yeah.
So we've got SEMICON. Last time I saw you actually was at SEMICON Europa, but I also think I saw your team at IWLPC last year in California. So with all of these events starting to come up, and we don't know if they're going to be virtual, what's your feeling about virtual events in general, and how, what would you participate if these events that you normally go to shift to virtual?
Yeah, so what I can say, normally we are doing, I think, about 5 to 10 exhibitions or events each year. This year we skipped everything despite of SEMICON Europa. So we will go to SEMICON Europa this year in November. Actually, we did not participate at any virtual event, so we do not have any experience with that. But I think, or I can imagine, it will be a good way for the future, or for situations like these, where we can meet each other, or can meet companies and can learn more about products or new processes or new things, like at events like a virtual exhibition. So I think it's a good way for us to communicate, but at the moment we do not have any experience with it.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of ups, positives and pluses and minuses, and I do miss the, I would love to be sitting in your booth having a beer right now, and that's not something that we can.
What we're missing all.
Although I suppose we'll figure out how to do that. And I'm just curious, and I guess we'll find out. I know the plans currently are for SEMICON Europa to happen. I'm curious, because the US, for us to travel right now to Germany is a 14-day quarantine in Germany before we can attend anything. So 3D Insights may be participating virtually versus in person this year, but we'll see. We may be able to get somebody who is already in Europe to visit companies. And anyway, I'm just really interested to see how we can shift to supporting companies and getting the message out virtually as much as we can until things are settled down a little more and safer. But anyhow, where can people go to find out more about Plan Optik?
So at the moment, just go to our homepage, planoptik.com. There you can find a contact form, or just write us an email at info@planoptik.com. And this is the best way to contact us. Yeah.
Great. Okay. And if you do contact Plan Optik, let them know that you saw this video, and that's how you knew to get in touch. And thank you, Carsten and Markus, for joining us today. It's always nice to talk to you. And to
welcome.
the audience,
Thank you.
Thank you too.
And to all of you who've stopped by the 3D Insights virtual booth at SEMICON West, don't forget to download your print issue of the yearbook and subscribe to our e-newsletter, and enjoy the rest of your time at virtual SEMICON West. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.